Let's do some dividing of rational numbers. If you're like, wait, that says quotients. Yep, that's the answer to a division problem. If you did not watch these notes at all, I'm really going to recommend you go watch them, because I'm going to try and kind of go briskly, quickly through these problems right here. So first things first is we have negative 7.5 divided by 3.75. What I'm going to do is I will do the box on some, I'll do maybe the regular division on others, but here's what we've got. We've got 7, 5 here, there's a decimal there. And now the audio is totally changed because I'm back in school. Okay, so how many times does 3.75 go into this stuff? Well, here's what I'm going to recommend, is that you bounce your decimal 1 time, 2 times, and then you do it here as well. 1 time, 2 times. Because if you left the decimal the way it was, you were asking the question, how many times does 3.75 go into things? And that's a tougher question than 375. And you might be thinking, no, that's actually easier. That's really up to you. But here's what happens. Now that the decimal is here, there's a 0 there, okay? There's a 0 here. All right? And then there are zeros after the decimal. Let's see if we need those. But the answer is we're not gonna. If you really are truly doing the box method, then you'll ask how many times does 375 go into 7? And the answer is 0. And then how many times does it go into 75? And the answer is 0. And then this is one reason why the box is a little on the silly side, but hey, how many times does 375 go into 750? And the answer is really gonna surprise you, because it's 2. It just goes in 2 times. So the answer is -2. Why is it negative? Because there was a negative right there. Okay? Okay. Number 2. First fraction stays the same. We're going to multiply, and we're going to flip the second fraction. If you have no clue why, you can find out. You multiply straight across, and you get 3/10. We're done. 6.7 divided by -4. -4, how many times does it go into 6.7? 1 time. Let's see, the decimal's right there, and this will be 6 times. That is now worthy of bringing down that 0, because there's infinite zeros afterwards, right? How many times does 4 go into 30? That's 7 times, that's 28 with a 2, and it's like that. So our answer is -1.675. Number 4, again, if you're going, whoa, what is that? Come check it out. Come check it out. Come check it out. That's last time I'm going to do that. Here we go. 1 -5ths, that negative placement also doesn't really matter, divided by -9 1/5. Well, I'm going to convert this guy. I'm going to convert him. 5 times 9 is 45 plus that 1. We're going to have 46/5, and it's negative. And we still have this -1/5, and we are still dividing. But in a second, we will not be. We are now multiplying. -5 46ths. Woo. 1 times 5, well, here, you know what? I'm going to get my cancel on. That's 1 and 1. -1 times 1 is +1 over 46. 1/46 is the answer. -2/7 times 7/10 is -2/10. Why is that? because these guys can cross cancel. And remember, we talked about this here. If you don't want to cross cancel, then don't. You would get negative 14/70ths, and when you divide them both by 7, you get negative 2/10, which is actually negative 1/5. Negative 1/2 times negative 4/3 is 4/6, also known as 2/3. 2/3 divided by negative 14/1. If it's been a minute since you've seen that, any whole number can be written as a fraction if you put it over 1. And now we're going to have 2/3 times 1 negative 14th. So that's 2 over negative, is it 54? Hang on, why can't I think right now? That's 12, 1, 42, negative 42. Divided both by 2 to get negative 1/21. Number 8, convert this, multiply to get 6 plus 1 is 7/6, and it's negative, and we will be multiplying by 3/5. So this is negative 21/30ths, which dividing both of those by 3, we get negative 7/10. We're done. All right. Looking at this, I know that 72 divided by 9 is 8. So let's mess around with the decimals a little bit. And I did not cover this in the video, so really, number 9 is probably one we'll talk about. But anyway, let's check this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this decimal place 1, 2 times. And then that means I need to move it 1, 2 times here, okay? So I end up getting 72 divided by 90. And what's going to happen is you can divide both those by 9, and we get 8/10, which is 0.8. So if you're like, well, wait a second, didn't you move it twice here? I did. I definitely did. But we got 72 divided by 90, all right? And that ends up being 0.8. Negative times a negative is positive. And if you really don't like what just happened here with the moving of the decimals, then slide over here and do 0.9 divided by 0.72. Here's where you need to move the decimal. Move the decimal. And it's now 9 into 7.2. How many times does 9 go into 1? 7, 0 times. How many times does 9 go into 72? 8 times. Look, 0.8. So, anyway, let's move on. 10, 5.4 divided by 36. This is really like 54 divided by 360, right? Because if I move it one place and I move it one place. And if you're like, why are you doing that to us? Because I am thinking that I know that 9 or bigger numbers can divide both of those, right? And so I can just make them fractions like that. And I know that 9 works. This is going to be 6/40ths. And I could even divide even bigger. I can now divide by 2 and get 3/20ths. So 3/20ths is an okay answer, but wait, what about a decimal? Okay, you could do it like this, 20 into 3. That goes 6 times. No, what am I doing? That goes 1 time, and you get 10 and a 0, and it's 0.15. But if you're like, wait, you went from this to this, you ended up dividing anyway. You're right, I did. I feel like maybe this was slightly easier, but maybe I'm totally wrong. So let's do this. 36, I need to zoom in for my pen to not be giant. 36 into 5.4. Well, 36 can't go into 5, and it can go into 54 once. When we subtract, we get 18. We're going to bring down a 0. And now, how many times does 36 go into 180? 5 times. And watch this, 5 times 6 is 30, 5 times 15. I'm sorry, 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3 is 18. So you get 0. Look, 0.15, 0.15. Maybe you need to focus on just doing this. Sorry if this threw you for a loop. I'm really trying to just take some approaches here that maybe you would potentially take, which is why I did this one like this over here. Number 11. And also, like, not just those of you might potentially take those routes, but maybe you see, wait a second, isn't 24 divided by 6, isn't that just 4? And now we just need to figure out the decimal placement, right? So 24, 6. Well, it was 0.6, so let's move the decimal one place. And it was 2.4, so we move it one place because we moved it here, right? And so this one actually really nicely just is 4, but also it's a negative 4. So 2.4 divided by 0.6 is negative 4. 12. 10 divided by, or 10 over 1 times negative 4 thirds is negative 40 thirds. And that's done. But you know what? Let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. It is, let's see, 40 is 13 and 1/3 negative. Now, one reason why I kind of went ahead and showed you this is, I guess this is maybe a time that, maybe it's not a great time to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Imagine you had a pizza and you were to cut it into fourths. Basically, this question is saying, hey, I've got 10 pizzas. How many 3/4 of a pizza are there? Well, and we could do that pretty easily if we said, hey, listen, there's 1 in every pizza, right? So the answer, if I have 10 pizzas, is there's at least 10, right? So check it out. There was 10 in our 13. But if I actually, I'm not going to do this, but notice if I were to duplicate this, you know, like 10 times. In fact, here, I think I can kind of duplicate that pretty easily. Duplicate, 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 dupe, 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 dupe. Wow, I did it. Okay. Did I do it too many times? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pizzas. Yep, I did it way too many times. That's okay. So now we can do this question, right? So basically, if you and your friends were like, hey, there's 10 of us, and we all want to eat 3/4 of a pizza. I'm sorry, no, there's 10 pizzas, and we all want to eat 3/4. How much pizza is going to be left over? Well, so like I said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 3/4 right there. But now there would be, here's 1, 2, 3. That's another 3/4. 1, 2, 3. That's another 3/4. And now 1, 2, 3. That's another 3/4. So now if we take those 3 and add them to 10, that's our 13. And then here's where this is kind of like a, we've got 1 piece left over right here. That is 1/3 of a 3/4. So anyway, there's our little visual on this. Hopefully that doesn't make your brain go too crazy. Let's go over here and do some more of this. Speaking of too crazy, I'm just going to do regular division now. I'm not going to try and get all crazy with the decimal places. Not now. Let's just move on. Move the decimal once. Move the decimal once. It's now 7 into 630. Okay? And so how many times is 7 going to 6? 0 times. The 6 goes up there. How many times is 7 going to 63? 8 times, 9 times, 9 times. Because that is 63. 0. 0. How many times is 7 going to 0? 0 times. And then the decimal's right here. So our answer is negative 90. And this, by the way, this is part of the reason why like the answer got bigger. It went from 63 to 90 is this over here. We only had 10 pizzas. How the heck did we get 13 and a third? It's because we were taking a fraction of the pizzas, and then the remaining fractions, the extra pizza added up. Okay. 8, 3.2. It's just 0.4. Because 8 times 4 is 32. And it's going to be positive because you have a negative times a negative. Convert this. 2 times 1 is 2. Add the 1. You get negative 3 halves. 1/2 times negative 2/3 is negative 2/6, which is negative 1/3. Negative 3/4 divided by 0.1. Oh no, what are you going to do? You could do this, or you could do this. Oops. It doesn't matter. Which one do you want to do? You could do that, which, by the way, will end up being 4 times 7 is 28, so negative 7 and a half. And if you want to do that right here, be my guest. 0.1 into 0.75. We need to move the decimal, move that decimal. 1 goes into 7 times, and 1 goes into 5 times. And it's a negative divided by positive, so it's negative 7.5. Guess what? These are both the same. All right, converting stuff before we can actually do it. 2 times 3 is 6, plus that 2 is 8. That's negative 8/3 divided by 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. And then plus 2. We need to do division before we can do the addition. So how do we deal with that? Well, we've been doing that. We change this to multiplication and we use the reciprocal of that fraction. Don't forget that plus 2. We're gonna go straight across. We get negative 48/33. Yippee! We can reduce this before we do the plus 2 if you want. Let's see. We can divide by 3, and we would get negative 16/11 plus 2. But what we're going to have to do is multiply this by 11 over 11. And we end up getting negative 16/11 plus 22/11, which is going to be positive 6/11. That is number 17. 18. 1/2 minus, timeout. Let's do our division, right? So plus, I'm going to hang on to my plus sign. And now I'm going to do negative 3 times 2 over 1, which is 1/2 plus negative 6. If you're confused, this times the reciprocal, and then I just am hanging on to this plus sign, right? So I'm at 1/2. I'm about to subtract 6 from it. It's negative 5.5. If you're like, wait, how did you do that? I think you guys know that if you were at negative 6 on a number line and you were to just go 1/2 forward, right? 1/2 in the positive direction, that's what you'd get. And if you're like, wait, that's not what you did. That is what we did though, right? A positive 1/2 and a negative 6 is like that. And this is what we get. 19. Parentheses. Can we do what's inside of them? Nope. But we do have an exponent. So we have negative 0.4 times negative 0.4. That's 16. Move the decimal once. Move the decimal twice. Move the decimal once, twice. This is now 0.16 divided by 0.2. Why did we do this first? You do the parentheses, then you do the exponents. Then you either multiply or divide, whichever is on the left. So here we are. We're at 0.2 divided by 0.16. Let's move our decimal to the right once, move our decimal to the right once, and put it right there. We get 0.8. 0.8 is our answer. It's not negative. It is positive because our negative here got multiplied by itself twice to get rid of the negative there. Number 20. 1/3 divided by 2/5. 1/3 times 5/2 is 5/6. You might have thought that was going to be the hardest one. That was the easiest one. Next, how many 3/4 pound packages or 0.75 pound packages can you make with 4.5 pounds of sunflower seeds? There will be some of you who try to do this. You will say, this is what you're doing. I forgot my decimal. This is not right. You are not doing 0.75 divided by 4.5. You're saying, listen, I've got a pile. There's my pile of 4.5 pounds of seeds. I'm going to grab a 0.75 pound pile and bring it over here. How many of those will I have? That's the question. So you are doing 4.5 divided by 0.75. Some of you out there might have done this literally, and you were like, I don't know, Mr. McMath. Let's just subtract 0.75 over and over and over. And you could do that. That is kind of what division is in a way. But I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do division. Because what if I had like 1,200 pounds of sunflower seeds? You going to do that many times? No, that's crazy talk. 0.75 divided by 4.5. You know what? We'll do the box for you. How about that? So here's a box. 4.5, right? Let's move our decimal twice. Let's move our decimal twice. There's the decimal. So we're going to end up getting a 0 here. How many times does 75 go into 4? None. And same thing for 45. But how many times can 75 go into 450? Well, let's count. If this were 100, it'd be 4 times, right? So let's just think about that. 75 cents is 75. Now 2 of them is $1.50. Then $2.25. Then $3. Then $3.75. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then another 75 cents. We're up to $4.50. Uh-oh. This just goes into it 6 times. You can make 6 bags. You can have 6 3/4 pound packages. So I did a little bit of extra explaining here, obviously. Let me know what questions you got.